All right. This is Jackie, and I'm here with Chris of Sunbendr. How you doing this morning?
Doing great. We had a show last night, so it was one of those epic ones. It's like you never know when you play a show on a Friday night. It could be great, could be weird, but last night turned out to be super fun. Legendary spot, just amazing crowd, and I actually don't feel too bad today. So all things came together, and
That's
yeah,
great.
it gave me a lot of energy when I woke up this morning, just kind of reminiscing on last night.
Nice. Where'd you play?
We played at the Casbah down in San Diego. Some of our friends, it's been miniaturized, dark alley dogs, and it's just like when you play a show and a bunch of other bands come out to hang and to watch, it just makes it that much better because you want to play better because you've got your contemporaries, your friends out there who are also in bands, but they also know, they know the deal. And so the crowd being probably like half made up of our friends' bands helped the night. And the Casbah is just a legendary, iconic punk rock punk rock venue in San Diego, and it's like always a honor and a privilege to play there. So everything came together.
Excellent. It's like, especially when you've got basically musical cheerleaders. I mean, that's pretty great because they're gonna hype you up. I love that.
Yeah, that helps. And we had like, people singing along and stuff. Sorry, my okay. We should be stable now. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. You have your new single, Pictures. Tell me what that track says about the band's sound right now.
It's interesting. We did a 5-song EP, and not thinking too much about it as we were putting it all together, but all the songs sound so vastly different. This song, in my estimation, and it wasn't really planned like this, but it kind of has a Brit pop kind of shimmer to it. And we all listen to Oasis, we all listen to British music, of course, but we didn't set out to write this like Brit pop jam. It just kind of started forming into that via our own style. And so now that we've had them all the songs done for a while, but as now they're all kind of one unit. We have one more song coming out in like November 21st, I think. Every song is so different. It's like, how is this an actual EP when it should just be all singles? So, and we've been releasing them as singles. So yeah, this new one, it's fun. It's a love song. It's it's kind of, I guess, meant to give you a blissful feeling, and then we kind of come in with the choruses and some of the bridges with a little bit of a impact. So it just kind of, it's a sum of a couple different parts put together to form this, I guess, pretty unique indie rock, Brit pop, Encinitas punk rock song.
How was that song born?
The song is born like most of our songs. Myself or Brandon Parkhurst, who is just an incredible guitarist and songwriter. One of us will bring in a riff, or a part. I think in this case, Brandon came in with the first part, the kind of the intro, and then the opening verse, and we kind of just jammed on that for a while. And our songs come together pretty quickly. I think we kind of know if this is a Sunbender song or not within jamming on it for a few times or for a few hours or whatever. So this one kind of came together, I guess, organically, like the rest of them. I started working on the words, and I feel like a lot of bands do this. You have this melody in your head. So Brandon and I are kind of we're jamming on it, and we're both just mumbling things into the mic that sound good. And then I usually take from our iPhone recordings at the rehearsal spot and listen to the mumbles and the whatever sounds we're making, and try to formulate words that create a story or create an image for the listener, and for us to sing it. This has a couple standout parts. The the refrain of "You always get what you want, my love." I was having a conversation with my girlfriend today, and she asked the same thing. What does that mean? Because it sounds like you're angry. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. So I guess it could have dual meanings. Like for her, I would be saying like anything you want. I'll give you anything you want. Like you always get everything you want. Or you're kind of maybe complaining about the person you're with, like, God, you always get your way, or you always get what you want. So there's duality in that one particular line. And then I guess the beginning of the lyrics, you think about the memories that you have, and randomly enough, I'm thinking about my phone, right? You have a past relationship, or you just want to clear some of your history, right? And you have all these pictures, whether it was a trip that was terrible and you're like, why did I save these photos? Or a relationship that ended not in a great way. And you're like, okay, I have all these pictures. What do I do with these? Do I delete them? Do I print them out and put them away? And so it's kind of more of a question about your own history via the pictures. Can be actual pictures or memories or habits that you want to get rid of. So it's kind of open to interpretation, but that's kind of how we felt when we were writing the words.
Interesting that she picked up on that very specific line.
Yeah, well, some of these, I think there's a lot of parts within this 5-song EP that are about her, so she's always curious as to which parts.
Now she's playing detective.
Yeah.
Would you say that your songwriting is more autobiographical or fictional?
Ooh, good question. Probably half and half. I mean, it's probably not a great answer, but I think it's a lot of the stuff is drawn from either things that have happened to us, or something you overhear, something that you find interesting, that you read, or just whatever. Something like it's a real trip how the universe can kind of just flow through you, and then the words come out. So beyond the music, which comes together via the band, the words, a lot of times we're writing in the studio. We have been playing them live, but live you can kind of cheat a little bit and back off the mic at certain parts when you don't know exactly what you're saying. So it's what words sound good together, but also can paint a picture. They're not necessarily story songs for this one. I think if you're looking at the kind of the history of all of our music, like White Lamborghini, for example, came from On My Street. It's a, back street. There's a lot of little kids running around, and we get really pissed off when people drive too fast down here. And there's a line in that song that says, I can tell by the way that you drive, you're not from around here. And the song goes on to talk about this, like, dude in a white Lamborghini that's just being, the worst type of dude around town. And that kind of comes from like a Steely Dan song called Gaucho, when you're just describing this guy that sucks. But the "You're not from around here" line to me was kind of the ultimate passive aggressive burn that you could say to somebody like on the road without being, you know, straight up aggressive. It's like it'd be so embarrassing if somebody, told you to slow down or talk to you and they're like, "Yeah, I can tell you're a tourist. You're not from around here. I can just tell by the way you drive." And it felt so empowering to just be like, "Oh, like that is the best line when somebody's driving too fast down your street." And I've got to use it once and it worked. The guy's face turned red, so that was proof of concept. So yeah, I'd say half the songs are kind of just made up. They're stories that come from reality, and then some literally just come from us making noises at the mic at rehearsal and going, "Ooh, you know what? That kind of sounded like you said this and this and this." You write it down, and then you start building around it.
That's an interesting technique. You mentioned the good vibes that you're on today. Would you say that you get more catharsis from songwriting or performing?
I think performing, because it's so immediate, and it's when you write a song, it tends to kind of grow, or there's this weird organism that forms when you write the song. And we have released songs that were like, damn, I wish we would have taken more time and done this and this. So that's just an extended process. The shows for us, it's like we play mostly, indie rock clubs, and we were lucky enough to have some of the best in the country, right? Very close to us. We got the Belly Up that we play often. We got Casbah. We got smaller places like Soda Bar, Tower Bar, Ken Club, and then big places like the Sound and Observatory. So the places that we usually play, you never really know if anyone's going to show up. Like we have a decent following around here, but a lot of nights in San Diego, you have a lot of options. Like last night, Fu Manchu was playing. Our other friend's band were playing at this other bar, and so we were just going, all right, well, we'll see what happens. And it ended up being super fun. It's just you can kind of tell right away the energy that you feel when the show's over. And we have this thing, myself, Frank Dixon, who's our drummer, who is just an absolute legend. About we play the show, and the last I don't know, most of the last shows have been great. So there's about this half-hour window after the show where it's kind of like, okay, you're resetting, you're loading your gear, you're sweating, you're kind of just trying to chill out. After that half hour, or after the gear's loaded, then the text chain starts between us three. Like, oh my god, that was so sick! Like last night, we were just, we were so happy and just really energized, because we've also played those shows where there's 8 people there and they're not super interested in it. And so those are the ones like, okay, well, maybe next time let's do this or this. But it's always that feeling afterwards when your friends are, of course, your homies are going to come up and tell you it was great. But when you have strangers coming up like, wow, I had no idea who you guys were, that set was insane, like that feels really good. So it's I think that feeling, and usually you waking up the next morning after playing late and you feel like crap. But when you have a great show, it is like a drug in a way, because you get that like high. You're like, oh god, and now you want to chase it again. You want to make the next show even better. It's like landing a great skate trick after eating it a bunch of times. You land it once and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I got to do this again. It's like everything that we do. We all surf a lot, and so you'll have 3 weeks in a row where you just do not catch a good wave, and you're just not, you know, you're blowing it. And then all of a sudden you go out and you have a really good session, and you fall in love with it again. You're like, okay, we got to do this again, ASAP. So that's what a good show will do for a band. Bad show is pretty discouraging, but I guess that's why we've been in bands together for so long. We just love that feeling of being on stage, and if we are playing to one person and the bartender and the bouncer, we're gonna have as much fun with it as we possibly can. Obviously, it's more fun to play to a bunch of people that are having as much fun as you are.
How do you measure success then in this crazy everything that's been going on lately?
Well, I feel like success for us is the friendships that we have within the band. And when you can release a song, when you can go and play a show and get a great reaction. We would love to go on a huge tour and play arenas or whatever and get paid and all that stuff. But at the same time, we all have families. We've all been doing this for so long that I think success for us is playing fun shows, uh, writing and recording songs that get better and better the more we do it together. And I think leaving a, I guess leaving a legacy sounds kind of strange, because it feels a little too early for that. But I guess leaving a body of work that you're proud of, and it's kind of harder these days because everything is so measured. When I was a kid, if a band had a 7 inch, I was like, oh my gosh, this band's huge. Like, this is amazing. And so they probably made 50 of them, but for me, I'm like, oh, I'm holding it. And now it's like, you find yourself going on Instagram and going, oh, like this video was awesome. Why did it only 100 people like it? Or why is this song on Spotify like stalled at 10,000 views or whatever? And so it's kind of like you get a little hung up in the numbers of it. So I think for us, we have all been in bands that were like almost big, I guess you could say. And we kind of have seen enough and been around enough to know like we don't measure success in the amount of listens that we have. We measure success in songs that we're proud of. And when we get good feedback and people tell us that they like the music, like that's as good as a couple bucks, for me. And we actually, I think most bands of our size or our, caliber, we pretty much pay to be in the band. We all have jobs and all that stuff. And so this is our outlet, our art. So at times we are paying to be in a band. But when you get a couple $100 for having a super fun night with your friends, that's just a super, that's a bonus. We would all be doing this for free. But when you can get some dough to pay to have some t-shirts printed or like get a new bass pedal that you made from making the music, from creating the art, it kind of makes that feel extra special. So we're successful, but of course we want more. We just want as many people to hear this music as possible, and if they like it, awesome.
Speaking of which, how do you balance advertising the new music you have out and being an authentic human being, especially when it comes to your use of social media?
So I'm in a unique position because I have a podcast that's an action sports based podcast. I work as an announcer, a commentator for major surfing, skating, snowboarding events. I'm connected to people that are making surf videos and skate videos, and so I kind of have a backdoor into a lot of, I guess, advertising outlets. For example, I work for the World Surf League, which is the championship tour of surfing. So it's kind of like the biggest elite tour. And we had a couple new songs come out that were perfectly timed with this big event that was happening, I'm on the broadcast and I was just pushing like, yo, we got this new song out. It'd be so rad if we could, because they use music, between the commercials and all that stuff. And so it's happened now a few times where, my our songs are on these broadcasts for these surf events. It says our name on the screen. So that's kind of like a backdoor way to do it.
I like that. I think that's
Yeah,
such a great creative use of your all of your skills.
yeah, and like the social media stuff is we want we give it, we just like anybody can use it, right? Any of our friends who are making a skate or surf video, like they can use the music, um make a commercial, whatever, like use it. We just want it out there. And then it's fun to kind of like go and see what other bands are doing. And if we had a budget, we could come up with some really cool or funny music video ideas. But for the most part, it's just us with our phones. We When we have shows, we will just shamelessly promote them on our band pages, on our personal pages, on our on my podcast page. So we kind of use all of our social media when we have shows and we have songs coming out. We never wore our own band shirt. We draw the line at that. But we definitely, we have recently signed with NC Records, and it's been really cool because in the past with our previous band Cut You Up, it was me posting all the songs, via like TuneCore, this website that distributes music, and I was always screwing up, and it's really hard to, once you put a song out, if there's a mistake, like I've misspelled the name of the band in the so that comes out on iTunes and Spotify and it's like spelled wrong. Or I released a whole Cut You Up album, and I don't know how, but the first track, which is our most popular song, I uploaded a live version that was like not sounding that great. And so it's stuff like that that is just a pain. And so NC Records now, we just give them the music and they put it all out there and they help us with promotion. And it, it's like an indie label, and there's not like cash flying around, but they believe in the music and they have a really sick roster of bands. So it's awesome for us. And we try to do everything as DIY as possible. We do have some cool connections, and if like Tom DeLong, for example, is a good friend of ours for a long time. He has a home studio that's incredible, and we were just hanging out and he mentioned it like, hey, if you guys ever want to use the studio, I'm not doing anything in there right now. And we're like, okay. And thinking like, oh well, we don't even know how to turn these machines on. At around the same time, a guy named George Perks, an amazing producer out of England, we just started talking back and forth, DMing. He was a big fan of Cut You Up, and he was like, I would love to record you guys. And we were fast friends. And basically we're like, we want you to record us too. We want to come to England. We don't have any money. And he's like, I'm gonna use my vacation to come record you. We need a studio. And I'm like, we got a studio. So he was a big Tom DeLonge Blink fan as well. And so that was kind of some extra, incentive, extra fun. And we ended up doing the session at Tom's house. He gave us like so generous. He gave us his whole studio. We were playing his guitars. He was coming in and out like with ideas. And it was just like the most seamless, beautiful week. And it was 5 days in Tom's studio and then 2 more days in our friend Chris Prescott's studio. Chris Prescott is the drummer of Pinback. He's been in a bunch of bands that we all absolutely love, and he's just like the raddest guy ever. So we went to his studio to do the drums, and it all came together. George brought it back to England with him, mixed everything, and it couldn't have gone better. And the whole thing was basically, you know, maybe 5 grand. And so, like, I think that's a pretty good, great accomplishment, because we know all the stories. We've been through getting these kind of like big advances, and then there's the pressure, and you're like, wait, how did we just spend 20 grand? Like, we don't even have a song done. So it all kind of fell together really nicely. And there was a lot of planning, and there was a lot of favors favors asked, but we couldn't be happier with the 5 songs that we have. The next song coming out is called Crime Wave. We just can't really figure out like what this song is. Um, it's really weird, but it's really fun to play. And whenever we play it live, people are super into it. And so I think this is going to be cool when that one comes out. Then you're really going to hear the 5 songs that are so different. I think it'll be kind of cool to have people go, okay, like listen to 5 in a row and try to figure out like what this band is, because it's going to be, I think it's going to be an interesting study in what we are.
Speaking of playing live, um, how true do you try to stay to the original recording, and how much do you feel that you've got the freedom to kind of experiment when you play live?
Well, we're lucky to have a drummer like Frank Dixon. We call him Joey because he's like a little baby kangaroo living in the pocket. So he's our Joey in the pocket. And with Frank as the driver, Brandon and I have freedom, but we also know that it's like if we go off the rails, Frank's still in the pocket, so we can always come back. The songs, I would say the songs are probably they're gonna be louder, a little bit more aggressive live, probably a little just slightly faster than the recording. Um, Last night, for example, at the end of White Lamborghini, which is kind of a song that at least all our people know, we were so into it by the end of the song, like luckily there was only 10 seconds or 15 seconds left of the song, but I just like took my hands off the guitar and started making like smashing it because I was like caught up in the vibe, and I just so yeah, the organic mistakes are proof that AI cannot be a Sunbender, because AI does not mess up like we do. And I think people, I like when I'm at a show and like the band screws up, or like the little slight mess ups, and then you if you're in a band and you see it happen and you see the guitar player kind of like look over at the bass player like, whoops, you're like, oh yes, like they mess up too. So
Yeah,
it's
we're all
cool.
human, even the people on stage.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I would say the difference is it's just a little faster and looser when we're live. And if the atmosphere is right, it's gonna be crazy. Like last night was crazy. I had to duct tape my uh cable to my bass because I just knew this, like we were gonna be flying.
We'll stay tuned for much more from Sunbender and get wild with them. This is Jackie, thanks to Chorus FM and In the Key of Change. Thank you so much.